Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I just finished listening to a video about a sheikh explaining the Islamic context behind a woman being deficient in intellect and where there needs two women to be a witness in the case of a trial or to put testimony forward for something or bear witness. Usually there's an immediate uproar when we hear something like this because we're like, we're not deficient in intellect. How dare you say that about me? And I spent many years of my life responding and thinking the same thing because I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm not deficient in intellect. And this whole new angle just blew my mind. So basically the concept explained behind it is that women are emotional creatures. When it comes to time of giving testimony and somebody potentially receiving a punishment as a result of that, women have a tendency to be more empathetic towards those situations. And if there's a consequence of that testimony where that person had to face the punishment, so get an arm chopped off or be stoned or put in prison, whatever that may be, that is something that's more likely to play on a woman's mind long term than it is a man's. So the concept behind it is to understand that women are emotional creatures and that we are more likely to be affected by the consequence that this person has because of our testimony. And the reason that there's two witnesses when it comes to women is that we hold each other accountable. So if somebody is in a more sympathetic place but we know the truth between us, is to ensure that we are being fair. Because men are more able to make cutthroat decisions without facing the long-term consequences of it mentally and emotionally. Whereas women tend to think about it over and over and over again. And there's another supporting hadith that says, if you ever see a problem in a distance, for example, there's a person having a fight, it's best for you to turn away so you don't have to give testimony. Because truly, giving testimony is a really hard thing, and it puts you in a very difficult position because as human beings we only see things from a certain angle. So if you're seeing it from this way and you're in the distance but you don't know actually what that scenario is about, you could be potentially putting your morality, your deen at risk by testifying. So the concept behind that is not to say that women lack intellect. It just means that the way we think about things has more of an emotional element to it. And that emotional element puts pressure on us. It puts pressure on the decision we make or the things that we say. And it's to guard us from having to deal with the consequences of that. Women generally have a problem with rendering someone guilty. I mean, think about it, ladies. How many people comment and message me that my husband's been cheating on me for the last, 5 to 15 years. And they cannot take the next step to render him guilty and let him face the consequences. Like, we're so emotionally sensitive. We're way more sensitive than men are. So when we read Quran and Hadith, this is one thing I've been thinking about. We were born in the day and age and we are living right now in a third wave feminism era. And in this, we have been raised to hear things in a certain way. And we have to understand that the way the Quran was written, because it was so long ago, it requires another level of analysis and more research to understand why certain things are said. Because now, in this day and age, if someone wrote on your work contract, you are deficient in intellect, you'd be like, hold on a minute, why am I deficient in intellect? That must be sexist or must be a racist comment. But religiously speaking, it's coming from an angle of understanding the predisposition women have emotionally. So the way we hear things is very important that we don't just take it for face value. Because that's what we do as women. Again, we're emotional. So we respond and react to what we hear. And we're like, oh, how does that make me feel? So it's not that a woman has a lack of intellect, it's that she has other parts of her that override that intellect. Whereas men are able to be quite cut and shut about it. And if a man got his hand cut off because he stole something and the man bear witness, the man is more likely to be like, well, he committed the crime and that was the consequence, end of conversation. But a woman would be like, what if he was really poor? What if he was stealing to feed his kids? Oh no, maybe I should, So we think on a completely different plane. So some of the things that are written in the Quran that, especially in this day and age, millennial, and Gen Zs, we hear these words, oh, there's a deficiency in us, there's a problem in us, because we're raised in an environment where we're constantly been made to feel that women are lacking something. Either you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not slim enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. So even though the word itself correlates to a lacking of something, there is so much more behind this, the semantics behind the way these words are used. And this is why I'm sharing my journey here on TikTok as well, because the more and more I research and realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even when he says that men have more rights than women, what the essence of that is that men have more rights because they have more responsibilities. Whether they fulfill them in your life currently or not is by the by. This is like an Islamic ruling. So they do provide for the home, take care of the security, and ensure that relationships, well, they should be ensuring relationships are kept calm and amicable within the family, ensuring that the people that live under his roof are mentally, emotionally, and physically at peace, safe, content, and there's justice operating in the space around him. That would then make sense that he has a degree of decision making over us as women. But that doesn't mean we have less ability to make decisions or we shouldn't be heard. That's not what it is at all, because a proper Qawwam wouldn't operate a dictatorship at home. It would be a two-way conversation, because he would want everyone to be content and happy with the way things are moving forward. But unfortunately, the way that we think nowadays, it twists these concepts around and it makes us feel that we should be in a position of being defensive, when actually, to be in your true feminine, you're in a position of receiving and being protected and guarded from really awkward and horrible situations, because they do have more of a long-term effect on us. So when it says deficiency in intellect, it doesn't mean you don't have intellect. It means your emotions can override your intellect, and that is in a woman's fitrah. It's nothing to be ashamed or defensive about. It's something just to note down, so then we can take steps moving forward in our relationships, at work, with our kids, whatever it may be, with that little bit more of logical discernment. But if Allah's protecting us from taking the stand and putting ourselves in a position where something we say somebody else will face a physical consequence for, guilty or not, why wouldn't we protect our emotion and our emotional health and our spirituality that way? It's actually beautiful. It's actually more of a protection. Women are so much more protected than men. We are protected spiritually, emotionally, financially. I'm not saying that these things happen. I'm saying that this is the essence of our deen. Whether people follow it or not is something we all will have to answer for individually later. But I really wanted to point that out, that Allah doesn't see women as less. He just acknowledges that we are built slightly differently, and every ruling is built around protecting the woman in the long run.